All right, so just wait for a couple of seconds just to see if any people are going to come on. Just a little introduction. This is Paranormal Tales, so it's GhostCast Paranormal Tale. And what this one is about, for those who've never been on an episode of Paranormal Tales, this isn't our proper, hey, Ash, this isn't our proper podcast. This is just the coming on and discussing little tales of the paranormal. So each week we come on and tell you a tale. Sometimes it's our own story. Sometimes it's another story from somebody else. And we'll get a little guest on, everyday person. Hey, guys, everybody's coming on there. All right, so welcome to GhostCast Paranormal Tale. And this week we're going to be talking about a tale of a full-bodied apparition. And it's a story that happened to me many, many moons ago when I was a teenager. I was probably about 18, so you can imagine how many moons ago that was. And it's something that's always remained a mystery in my life. People say, have you ever seen a full-bodied apparition? Have you ever seen a ghost that is fully detailed? And generally I say no, because most of the ones I've seen have been dark, shadowy kind of figures. And then I remember this one from when I was 18. Now, it was a beautiful summer day. I worked in an office. I worked in a typing pool. Turn my heater off because it's probably quite noisy. So I worked in a typing pool, which I really didn't enjoy. So any opportunity to get out of going to work, I will admit I was terrible for it. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful summer day that I decided to skip work. So I phoned in sick. Now, I used to walk a lot in the country with my dog, and I'm going to show you a little bit of a layout here. So this is where I used to live. One of these houses here used to be mine, and I used to walk the dog over into these wooded area here, which was beautiful, especially on a summer day. And this particular day, I had walked over this. It's an aqueduct, so it used to take the river. I'm just going to put it to this one now. All right, so it used to take the river across on a bridge across the railway line. This is a railway line here. So it used to divert the river across the railway line. Now, there also used to be a long time ago a walking track that went all the way down here to another bridge just here. So actually that one might be a better picture to show you. So setting the scene, I had taken the dog over the aqueduct and I was sitting kind of in the woods here, enjoying the sunshine, when I saw a young man walking along the track here towards me. Now, I used to have a Rhodesian Ridgeback. Now, my Rhodesian Ridgeback dog was a fight now and ask questions later type dog. So I was always on guard if I had him off the leash. When I saw the young man coming, I thought, well, he must have a dog. People generally don't walk through there without a dog. So I quickly put my dog on the leash and decided to skirt around this young man, just in case he had a dog. As I came close to the bridge here and crossed past the bridge, I looked down towards this young man and thought how strange it was. He was only in his late teens, early 20s, probably about my age at the time. How strange it was that he was walking through the water. There is an area on both sides you can walk on to avoid the river, but he was actually trudging through the water like he didn't care, which was really unusual. But I thought, look, I can't take a chance as another dog, so I continued down this track here. Now, it doesn't take long to walk from here to here. So as I'm coming off this bridge, suddenly all hell broke loose. A train, when I was about here, had screeched to a halt. The horn had been pulled. I could hear the horn being pulled. And then there was police coming flying up this road here as I came off the bridge. Now, I had a friend who lived a couple of doors down, and I went to call on her, and she said, yeah, she said, somebody, she said, has taken their own life. They had taken their own life by apparently jumping off the bridge. Now, I felt really, really bad because we talked to the police, and the police had said, yes, a young man has taken his life. So because they had to bring the body up through the garden, our garden. So they had to we were the only ones with a gate that backed onto the line. So they had to bring the body up in a body bag. Now, I felt so bad because I always felt, what if I hadn't have walked past that young man? What if I had stopped and said hello? What if I'd hung back? Maybe I could have stopped him from jumping off this bridge. And it was always a guilt. However, a couple of days later, the newspapers came out with a story. And it came out with a story about this young man. It said the train had pulled up because it had spotted a body in the undergrowth just here, in this area here. Now, the train had stopped because the driver had seen the body. So the squealing was a train trying to pull up suddenly all the way along here, because obviously they can't stop suddenly. The body had been lying there for about 3 days. And yet the young man that they talked about was the same description of the young man that I had seen trudging through that water 3 days earlier. Now, he looked very solid. It looked like me. It looked like you. Every detail I remember about that young man, what he looked like, what he was wearing. And even to this day, I remember his name. I'm talking 18, I'm 58. Wow, that's 40 years ago. 40 years ago. I still remember his name. I'm not going to say it because obviously there is loved ones around. To this day, it is burned into my memory, his name, and where he came from, what country he came from. And even to this day, I don't know. It's a burning mystery. Had he just thrown himself off the bridge and I could have saved him, and the newspapers were wrong, or were the newspapers right, and moments before his body was discovered, I actually saw him replaying that moment. And that's something I just can't get to the bottom of. I really can't. So I've tried looking for newspaper articles again online. I don't know how to do it. So it's a never-ending mystery for me. So, all right, I'm just quickly going to look through here. Again, Meek, for your question, because obviously I've been telling you the story, so I'm just going to look through some questions. I'm also going to bring a couple of people on. So now we're going to add to this CAG from Haunted Horizons, but also Damo from Haunted Horizons, which I'm going to unblock their mics because I've muted them, so they should be able to talk now. And the reason I brought these on is obviously because CAG helps me on the live streams, but Damo has a little story of his own, which we'll get to in a minute. Don't you, Damo?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. I'm just going to go through some of your comments first because I don't want to get too far behind. Obviously, hello, everybody who has joined us. Ash, Trina, Rosemary, I'm not going to go through you all. I've obviously missed a lot of you saying hello. Sorry about that. I was concentrating on the story. But we're going to talk about that story first and see if they've got any questions on it first.
Can I just say that I know how much this affected you because you actually took me to the site.
Yes. We were going to actually take some equipment there, guys. We had all the equipment in our pockets and bag ready to go, weren't we, Cag?
Yeah.
And we found out everything's changed there since I used to live there 40 years ago because they fenced off the whole way. There's no way of getting through it. It is highly overgrown. As you can see, the track isn't there anymore, so you can't even walk it from either end. So, yeah, we weren't able to get there. Although next time, Cag, we could just go close by and do it in the car. Hi, Charmaine. Hello. You're here. Hi. How's the bog feet going, Charmaine? Friendly dog, yeah, and that's it. Yeah, if you've got a Rhodesian Ridgebacks, beautiful dogs, highly intelligent, but he did like to fight. Very much like to fight. So, and he wouldn't sniff first; he would go straight in. And in those days, 40 years ago, it was a different world back then. So I did always keep him on a lead, but when there was nobody around, I'd let him off a little bit. He was a lovely dog, but unfortunately, he did have that one bad habit. Great with people, never ever was aggressive with people. Yeah, maybe. The only time we shut up is when Alison is talking on her storytelling voice. Ah, yes, Abby. That was my storytelling voice. I wanted to get a little creepier, but I'm no good at getting creepier. So, all right. So, evening, Keg, evening, the man, the myth, and the legend. Monroe. So, I think you're enthralled.
So Ash just wants to know whereabouts was it?
Ah, Ash, it's not in South Australia. So as you can tell by the trees, I'm just going to go back to it, guys. As you can tell by the lush green trees here, it's not Australia. I was born in England. So this is just on the outskirts of Sheffield in South Yorkshire in England. So I lived there, gosh, I lived there for 15 years, I reckon. Yeah, it was actually quite haunted in the area because on the track coming down here, it goes into what we call Topley Brook Tunnel. And I never knew where the tunnel came out at the other end. It's quite a long tunnel, but a lot of people died actually digging that tunnel out. So there's a lot of accidents in the old days. So the other ghost story along this line here, by the way, guys, I'm going to tell you some ghost stories along here before we go over to Damo, since we're in this area. The other ghost stories here was an interesting one, talking about full-body apparitions. All right, so I gather you've heard of the Roman soldiers that are said to still walk the old Roman roads, and monks, kind of line of monks in England that are still seen, and they're full-bodied apparitions. They're not like ghostly and see-through. People report them as being quite solid, but they seem to walk at ground level as it was back then. So they're missing their ankles, their lower legs, because the ground was a lot lower back then. All right, this whole area here used to belong to an abbey. So just down the road, there's a pub called Big Chief Abbey. And then you've got Abbey Dale, which is another suburb next door, because it used to, all this land used to belong to an abbey, and the abbey is still there, by the way. And there has been numerous reports when I was growing up of a line of monks crossing the railway line, a little bit further down from what I'm showing you, but crossing the railway line. The only problem is this railway line, this is a very steep embankment coming down. So they've set the railway line down, they've dug it out and set it down away from the houses. So on both sides, you've got this, you've got this embankment on both sides. The monks actually cross over here. All right, so they don't walk down the embankment and up again. They're seen, I never saw them, but they're said to be walking at the level the ground was in their day, because that ground wasn't a ditch back then. It was a higher land. So then that was a quite a well-known story. Is it true? I don't know. I never got to see them. So, but there you go. But I will tell you, when I was a kid coming home at night to my house, walking along that road, I was, can I say, crapping myself? Because always in your mind are the ghosts. So,
what was the name of the abbey, Alison, again, please?
The abbey, the abbey itself, well, I know the pub was Big Chief Abbey. I can look it up for you.
Yeah, so Whitby Abbey is in North Yorkshire. I love Whitby.
Let's see if I can look it up for you.
I've been to Whitby Abbey numerous times.
I'm going to bring, let me just bring you two up, because you don't want to be looking at all my screen, because that would be silly. Keep answering questions, guys, if you want to. Until I can.
They're all about squealing because they've seen Damo. I mean, like, really? I saw
Hello, everyone.
I only saw him on Sunday. I'm like, really?
I want to see this.
We had a staff meeting. Not that we've got any jobs, but we had a staff meeting.
I'll put in the pub at Big Chief Abbey, because that should bring up the name of the abbey. Oh, it's actually got the
So
abbey there.
it's quite interesting though, Alison, because if you lived in an area where there was an abbey,
Yeah,
right, and there was monks and things around there, your house could have been very similar to 30 East Drive, the monk house in Pontefract. Not 30
could
East
have been.
Drive.
We were further up the road, but yeah, wouldn't that have been cool? So,
wouldn't it?
yeah, it's actually called Big Chief Abbey. So the pub was named after Big Chief Abbey, and it still does exist. I'll just bring up the website for you. Let me have a look. That was supposed to be haunted as well, guys. Except my computer's so slow because I'm streaming, but I'll bring it up in a minute. Let me bring up a photograph for you. It's been made into it is a church now, so it does still exist. Might be better bringing up some images because I wasn't going to do this. So there we go. I'm going to bring this up for you. So these are some of the photographs here, Big Chief Abbey. So they have what's left of it. They have made into a church now. That's obviously what it used to look like. So used to have that part is still here. And the little bit at the back, so that would be this bit here looking at the side, but the rest of it is kind of gone here. So still exists. We should go up there and investigate, Cag.
We so should. That looks cool.
But yeah, it is still a used church now. They've taken it from being an abbey, monk's abbey, into being used as a church. So, but there you go.
Can I just say thank you to Rochelle? You guys are the best support getting through COVID.
Oh, thank you. Sometimes I wonder if we're just rambling, but there you go. If it keeps you all entertained. And we love sharing ghost stories. So, Damo, this is a short one, by the way. Our usual GhostCast is about an hour. This was always designed just to be a 5-minute story. And then I was going to go off. So I was just going to come on for 5 minutes, tell a story, and that was going to be it. However, you know us. We never can keep it to 5 minutes, can we, Kag? So we're going to stay on the whole full-bodied apparition thing. And we're going to now turn to Damo, because in Zedward, Damo had a bit of an experience. Now, there was a few of you that saw this, wasn't there, Damo?
Yeah, I wasn't the only one. So there was 3 of us that saw this figure, and 2 other people didn't see it.
Was that because they were behind coming out, or they just didn't see it?
The 2 people that didn't see it were Karen and Nick. They were the last ones out of the cell. The first people were Anne, myself, and Peter. So whether it was because they came out last, but we were all looking down the same way, and we could still see it, and they couldn't.
All right. So if we set the scene that you actually weren't working for Haunted Horizons then, you were one of our regular guests who come all the time. And you brought a trigger sound with you, didn't you? This is how it all began.
Yes, it is how it all began. We started off down in the mirror room. So it was actually pretty quiet to start off with. We weren't really getting much interaction of anything. The main issue that we were having were the camera batteries were draining. And we were going through about 2 or 3 batteries within a minute of each other, just going flat. But that's all we were getting. We decided to keep on going along, and I brought out my voice recorder, which I had preloaded some audio files onto it. This particular sound was of a shower running and a man screaming. So it's something that you may hear in an asylum, that sort of yelling out and screaming and all that. That's when it all turned really strange. After that was played, it was quiet there for a minute, and then we started to hear some noises out in the hallway. We couldn't quite pinpoint where it was coming from, but it sounded like it had been coming from upstairs. Anne was the first one to pop out and to the hallway and sort of have a look around when she noticed something down the end of the corridor. And it was me and Peter that followed out, and we could see the same thing right down the opposite end, just in front of cell 21 there. There was this outline of this dark shadow that was just standing there and not doing anything. We're trying to get some interaction out of it, but there was sort of no response.
It's not quite what I wanted, but there you go.
So, yeah.
Edward, so people can see who've never seen it. There we go. So I'm going to now do that. If people haven't seen Edward. Yep, carry on.
So, so we weren't getting any sort of reaction or anything like that. So we really thought that someone had snuck down from the group upstairs, which Cag was running upstairs with. We thought they were playing a trick on us. We thought it was a human person. Someone snuck down from the group, which isn't something that normally happens anyway. But we were adamant it was someone that was real. So we decided to turn the torch on, which is something that we don't normally do. But because we were so convinced of it, as we turned it on, instead of a real person being there or something disappearing, this figure actually lit up to the point where we could actually see what it was wearing. And when the torch hit it, it actually took off around the cell door into cell 21. Of course, there's three of us, myself, Anne and Peter, went running down the corridor to try and find this person who we thought was hiding among the cells. And when we checked it, no one was there at all. We have no idea who the person was.
Because you said that, if I remember rightly, because talking to you a while ago about it, that it actually, when the light hit it, put its hands up?
Yeah, it reacted as soon as if it had been seen by us, and it had noticed that we had seen that. It actually put its hands up against its head and sort of scurried around the door. So it wasn't a run or a glide. It was like a shuffling mode, but very quickly. And then it just disappeared into the cell. We could, in the torchlight, I could see it was a light-colored pair of pants and a dark top. We could see that it had short hair. I caught more of a glimpse of behind it. But we could even see that it had a belt on.
Okay. And how old would you have said? Because you obviously got a fairly good look at it.
Yeah. The face I didn't really get the best look at. Going by my notes that I wrote down back then, I said that I didn't think they were that old.
Right.
So maybe in their 40s or 50s.
Right.
But yeah, it's a bit hard to tell because I got more of a rear view than a front-on view.
Right. What colour was the hair? Did you get colours? You said you saw the top and you saw the legs, even the fact that it had a belt on as well.
Yeah. So hair colour, no, I don't recall remembering the colour of their hair. I just remember it was very short, sort of at the back. Yeah, I couldn't really tell you the colour of the hair.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, when you got down there was nothing.
Yeah, there was nothing. We checked every cell. We even double-checked the cell just in case someone was hiding behind a corner, which we checked as well. I went up to CAG to see whether anyone had left their group, and her group was all in the same spot. And then even where the noises were heard, they were down in a completely different spot. So the noises couldn't have even come from them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and how did it make you feel at the time?
I was actually excited because this is the stuff that we love doing and that. So instead of being afraid of it and that, I said all three of us went running down towards it to see where we could find it or find someone standing in a cell. So for me, it was really exciting. That it's something that I definitely didn't expect to ever see in my lifetime. So yeah.
So how many times have you seen what you would say could be a ghost then, Damo?
I could probably count on one hand. So I've seen the shadow figures before.
Yeah.
So probably less than 4 or 5 times, I reckon. So, but a full body apparition like that's the first time I've ever seen anything like that. So
yeah. Tashi said, what time of year was it? I can't remember. Do you remember?
It was in September in 2017. So almost coming up to 3 years ago now.
Okay. So it wasn't a special holiday or anything like that, Tashi. So I don't think there's any special holidays in September, is there? Hello, Pauline.
No, just a random night as well. I wasn't even planning to be there that night. It was all very last minute as well.
That's the whole thing with the paranormal, isn't it? It's just so random. You just don't know when it's going to happen. I will say, guys, I was kicking myself that night because I wasn't on duty that night. I was working elsewhere. Was I working or was I having the night off?
Oh, you probably weren't working.
I probably wasn't.
But how do you think I felt? How do you think I felt? I was actually in the building, but I was upstairs with people I'd never investigated before. So I let Peter take the regulars, and then I missed the whole lot. I was in the building.
And you still missed it.
Still missed it.
I always say I haven't seen a full-bodied apparition. And the reason I say that is because with that story I started with, I don't know. And it's something I've got to try and get to the bottom of. I don't know. It's always going to be a question in my mind. It was very odd, put it that way. And I just wish I've out there all the time doing this, day in, well, not so much now, but day in, day out, overseas. And I still haven't seen a full-bodied apparition that I know of. It's always been dark, shadowy figures, like solid shadow figures. That's the only way I've seen them. So,
but the thing is, because they're so solid, how do you know you haven't? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
True. How do we all know we haven't? We could be passing them in the street. We could be sitting in a coffee shop.
The only reason we knew that it wasn't a somebody else is because you're in a locked building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unlike, because like that one. So come.
No, you keep talking. I'll answer this one in a minute.
No, you go. It's all good.
No, you were making points, which were probably more interesting than me.
No. That's all good. You carry on. That's all good. I finished now.
I was just I thought you'd taken a breath because you'd finished, but I was just going to answer Linda. Can I ask when you guys started doing the tours? Late 2014. And then we had 3 months. So it was November 2014 till January 2015. Then we had a break until August, I think it was. And then they invited us back in again in 2015 in August. So, but we're the only ones that have done the tours there, Belinda, as in the ghost tours. So we've been there. I'm on the committee. So, yeah. So don't say, Belinda, don't say that you had a bad one, because otherwise I'll say, oh, maybe left another tour group in for one night. Hannah got scratched in Z Ward a couple of years. We've had a few of those. In fact, we've had a lot of those.
I still haven't been one of those yet.
Yeah, I have a whole computer full of welts and scratches. I haven't been. I keep waiting for it, but yep. And it's under thick polar fleece as well. Yep, it's under coats. Doesn't have to be bare skin. And I don't know how it was for you, Hannah, but most of the time I get told by ladies that it's kind of a tingling or a light sensation or something like that. So CAG. Well, obviously, actually, before I go to CAG, but obviously that showed extreme intelligence. So it was very aware of you putting a torch on it. It was very aware of you coming up to investigate what the person was. And it was almost like it was drawn to you playing that screaming. sound.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
was almost like it lured it out into the hallways, and it was coming to investigate what the screaming was, and then it stopped and you lot came out. And the fact it went around the door, I find really interesting, because the doors, we have them at 90 degrees, don't we? On our and that's more to give effect for you lot, but in the days of a working asylum, and for those who don't know, I'll just bring it up again for those who've just come on, we're talking about this building here. For those who don't know, this is the ward at the old Parkside Lunatic Asylum, and it's the ward that was set aside for the criminal insane, as they were called back then. So if they'd murdered, stolen, they were showing mental health issue at the time, this is the building they would have been put into. So the doors, because of this, the doors would have been either pulled hard against the walls or shut. They would never be at 90-degree angle, because that meant that a patient could hide behind that door, and as you're walking down, gives them the opportunity to jump out at you. So the fact that this person, what interests me, walked around the cell door as we had it on the night, would show extreme awareness of how we have everything on any given night, wouldn't it? So
Yeah.
It sure did.
I'm just going, because my comments, unfortunately, guys, stuck and they didn't come up. So I'm just going through.
Oh, do you want me to go through and have a look? Now, Michael. Oh, sorry, not Michael. Sorry, I can't even talk now. Michelle, how do you enhance your skills, ladies and gents, if you've seen and felt but can't explain what they were? Actually, none of us at Haunted Horizons are psychic in any way, shape, or form.
No, we're not.
We are all as psychic. We're as psychic as bricks.
Yeah, it's why we try. I always have, even before I did the tours, I still do run a research side, Paranormal Field Investigators, and that was always a team that was based on the nuts and bolts, equipment-based investigation type, and that's how we've also set up our tours. So they're more equipment-based investigation. So what we're trying to do is get that evidence, I guess, to back up the intuition, stuff like that. It's not that I work with Liz McGaskill on the radio, it's finished for the season, but I was working with Liz McGaskill, who is a medium, and she's really, really good. And my grandmother was a trained medium. My mother was a healer in the spiritualist church. Members of my family used to be able to see dead people. All right, but for me personally, I didn't get any of that, so I work with equipment, and I know CAG is the same, so we can't tell you that one, because we don't work in that arena, if you like.
We don't know. But we do have our guests that have got their special abilities, so that's good. When they come on, they can tell us things that we can't pick up on, so
they can give us little things where to set up equipment and stuff like that, and they find it really interesting. We do have groups of mediums that come on training, and they find it interesting to put a foot in our world. So the two worlds come together, and we're kind of using the equipment to see if the equipment is picking up what they're feeling, and vice versa. So
Anne's just said, even though we knew it was no one from upstairs, we were still dumbfounded. It took us ages to process the fact there was no one there. Believe me, I was a witness to this, and they wouldn't shut up about it. They were going on and on and on.
And it did cross it. Sorry, Anne, we didn't bring you on because I know how busy Anne is at work at the moment, so I didn't want to bring.
Didn't think you need any more stress, love. So
didn't want to bring any more stress, so that's the only reason. But if you can, Anne, are you happy to just put in the comments how you saw it? Would that be okay? We could bring Anne on, I suppose, if she wants to come on, but that would be up to Anne. And I don't think Karen saw it.
No, Karen and Nick were the only ones that didn't see it. So.
A typical Nick is Anne's husband, who's a skeptic, and it's typical, isn't it? The one time you could have changed his mind, and he did see it. That's typical. So typical.
It was interesting as well. Karen's just said that the 3 camera batteries, as you just said, drained, and at one point they had no camera going off at all. So that is always the same, isn't it? When you've got
Yeah,
no batteries, no camera is when things happen.
Yeah, it was literally the end of the third battery was even my own battery that I brought along. So we'd used 2 that were in the case, and then my own personal battery. They were all fully charged and completely went flat within minutes of us being in the bathroom right before this happened. So we didn't even have a camera showing our reaction of what was going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep talking. I'm just going to give Anne the link because Anne said she's quite happy to come on and talk about how she saw it. So let me just bring Anne
So
on.
just going to this one to Ben. Now, Ben said, I've seen shadowy figures and full-bodied apparitions before where they have been so clear I could almost make out what they were wearing. But this has only happened at Gladstone Jail. I've also been to Adelaide Jail and Z Ward, but never seen anything there. Does that mean anything? Just means you're just very unlucky at the time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason, is there?
No. Here's the reality of me seeing a ghost. All right. Or what I could say, I can never say the ghost, I guess, but what I would say would be, remember the man hours, all right? Because before I started Haunted Horizons Ghost Tours in 2010, I'd already been researching for about 20 odd years, up to 32 years now, I think. I also lived in a haunted house. I also dabbled with it most of my life as a teenager. Kag and me go around the world. So every year, except for this year, we go to England and America, and we just hire the big places just for us, Waverley, Trans-Allegheny. All right, think about the man hours. In my life, all right, 58 years, in my life, I have seen something about 15 or 16 times. I've had a lot happen that I can't explain, but seeing a full-bodied apparition to me, unless you have a gift for it, is actually the icing on the cake. You never know when it's going to happen. Right time, right place. I missed out on that one. Most of the ones I've seen have been at Tailem and Z Ward, which is why I love Z Ward and Tailem. I have been at the Adelaide Jail for 18 years as the official researcher, running the tours there and everything. I saw a glimpse of a shadowy figure once, maybe a misty form, in all that time. Does it mean there's nothing there? No, it means I'm just not there at the moment, the right moment when it's all going down. So that's the best way I can probably say it. Unless you've got a gift, and then it's...
Yeah. I was the only one to see the full-bodied apparition at the NRM until recently. Craig and another guest saw one. Can you remember? Craig and another guest saw a full-body, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to bring Anne on. Well, let's go to yours in a minute. Let's go to Anne. Hello, Anne. How are you?
Hello, guys. Good, thanks. And you?
Hello.
Hi.
So this is Anne. Again, Anne and Damo came on board to work for Haunted Horizons when we got overblown with the former Royal Adelaide Hospital. We needed guides. But before then, these guys have been coming for a few years as guests. And when the apparition happened, they were guests at the time. They weren't actually working for me. So now we've heard Damo, how Damo saw it. How did you see that apparition in the hallway? What stood out in your mind about it?
What stood out in my mind was the fact that he reacted to us. That really gave me an indication that it was actually someone upstairs. And they've suddenly realised that we're not frightened, which is what we thought they were planning on doing. I think that's what stuck out in my mind most. But to start with, I only saw him in profile as a dark outline. And I couldn't even tell at that stage whether it was male or female. And it wasn't until we turned the torch on and there was definition in that torchlight, it was like, well, it's a real person. Because Alison says, if you put your torch on, it disappears.
Yeah, I always thought I always say to myself, don't put a torch on, it won't exist if you do.
Yeah,
But it's a good
don't turn your torch on. You just never know. So don't ever turn your torch on. But and as I said, we were bewildered. We stood there for ages, just looking at each other, dumbfounded, questioning, did we actually see what we thought we saw?
Okay. So how did you get any definition on it at all? Damo said that he couldn't see the face because it had turned. Did you see any of the detail on it?
Yeah, so he couldn't get any facial features because even when I saw him standing in profile, it was too dark. So it wasn't until the torchlight went on that we could see then the light-coloured pants and the dark-coloured top with the belt around the waist. You could see that he had short, light-coloured hair, and it looked fairly thin on top at the back. My guess was he was in around about his 50s. I'm not a great one with age, but about 50. But because he reacted so quickly, and when he brought his arms up, that and head down, that really obliterated all the view of any facial features you might have gathered, as he then turned and went behind the door.
Okay. And of course, there was nothing there. And ever since, I have been very jealous. So, I mean, Z Ward's very interesting. I have seen them there. They're solid, but it's been always black silhouettes that I've seen. But there again, I haven't put torches on them. So it makes you wonder, if I had put the torches on what I've been seeing, would I get any definition? Although I will say that Will caught the Tailem Town one in the corner of his torchlight, and he said there was no light and shadow definition in the leg and the foot that got caught in the torchlight. It was just solid black. So I don't know. Maybe they manifest in different ways. Yeah, we don't know how it works, guys. We're not even going to pretend to say how it works. Hard enough to prove the ghost exist. And this isn't about proving, this podcast, Paranormal Tales, is just about sharing stories. It's not about proving that they're ghosts or anything else. This isn't what this section is about. Let me have a look.
Ian Bacon was saying that when he was 4 or 5 years old, he actually had a full-bodied apparition he saw out of his window. 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
He ended up running into his parents' room. How terrifying would that be?
Oh, Ian said solid black was how he saw the leg as well at lot 14. Okay, yes. Bree said, Craig, I'm going to read them out, guys, because you've got to remember we're also on YouTube. So YouTube people are only going to see the YouTube comments, and Facebook people are only going to see the Facebook comments. So, and you're going to miss each other's comments. So I know you can see your own comments, but I will have to read some of them out for the other channel. So I know this is the thing that keeps coming up, and it intrigues me as well. Tracy said, interesting that it was wearing a belt. Would the inmates have worn them? I would have thought they wouldn't have let them because of injury, and that has always been in my mind as well, Tracy. And I've got to check. That's the
first thing we questioned, wasn't it?
Yeah, that is the first thing we questioned. So I need to check with the Historical Society, especially David, who is on the committee with me, and he used to be the president for it, because they would have more information as to later on, did they relax all that and just make sure. I know they had to get strip off at the end of the day, so all that belt and trousers and shirts would have been taken off them. Whether they were allowed to wear them during the day because they were supervised, that might have been allowed, but it would have all been taken off them before they went in for the night. So
and also it maybe just depends on the person themselves, whether they're more of a trusted person.
Yeah, there was some that were very trusted. They used to be in the dorms. So How about Mel says she's seen a solid black figure at the NRM, which brings us to the NRM. We're going to finish on one very last full apparition story, and that was CAG. And again, it was prior to CAG working for me. It's when she was a guest. When she was a bad smell, she kept turning up every week on Haunted Horizons. And eventually gave her a job. So regretted it ever since. Okay.
Oh dear. All right.
No
Well,
apparition. You saw a full one.
it's a full-bodied apparition. I was down there doing an investigation, and our guide that night was a gentleman called Ash. There was only 4 people in the group. There were 5 people in the group. Sorry, 3 males, 2 females. The men, we'd left them in one carriage. I can never remember the name of that carriage. You know, the one that's difficult to get on and off?
The caboose. I think it's the
Caboose, that
caboose.
was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you can't get in that one now. So yeah, we left them in the caboose carriage. That's all 3 men. And I went with this other lady around to the ladies' carriage. We did it because we had 2 guides. We went off there, did a bit of investigation. We came back and we waited for the guys to come off the train. Now my husband and my son came off the train and went left down the steps. And I saw another guy get off the train and he went right and down the steps. So he ended up, which was a bit weird, he ended up going around the back of the train. And the woman that was with, it was her husband, and she said, "Where's my husband gone?" I said, "Oh, that's okay. I've just seen him get off the train." And I looked under the train. I could see a pair of light-coloured trousers and dark shoes. And I said, "That's okay. He's walking around the other side of the train. He's going to come round the back of the train shortly." At which point he then appeared from the opposite direction. He hadn't even been on the carriage. Who did I see? And not only that, it's actually blocked off that side. He couldn't have got off of that side of the train.
Yeah. And Craig, Craig isn't on tonight, you might notice. But Craig actually saw his first full-bodied not long ago at the Railway Museum, didn't he, Craig?
He did.
He
did. It was lockdown, wasn't it?
There? Yeah, it was lockdown. I wasn't there that night. Were any of you guys there? No.
Bugger.
From what I understand, he was in lockdown in the Fluck Pavilion, and that's where we put people around in the dark for about 5 minutes so they can sit quietly and see what happens. And he was standing in one of the aisles, and he saw somebody walking down the aisle past 2 of the trains. And it's got an exit sign, so it is kind of glowing down there. And he said it looked like a man, and it was a very light, almost fawn color. He didn't know whether it was a uniform or shirt and when he did the group shot, he particularly looked at the group and realized, no, there wasn't anybody in the group that was wearing that color clothing. And the girl that was sitting in the aisle further away from him actually turned just at the same time because she thought she heard something. And she just caught the tail end of this figure going past. So 2 of them saw it. And yeah, we don't know who that was, but it was another full-bodied apparition.
And it was also, they were wearing the same sort of clothes as well, wasn't it? Like a safari type suit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long after the building that the gentleman was named after that he'd passed away.
Okay.
Yes.
Just reading some of these. Abby says, and hashtag we want Tom.
No, you don't. Stop it. Stop encouraging him.
Tom is Ag's son who occasionally comes on the tours. All right. Pauline says, have any of you guys done hospitals or even old? Yes, Pauline, we did the former Royal Adelaide Hospital here, the big metropolitan hospital that shut down because they built a new hospital. So we were very honoured. We were allowed to take history tours, and eventually we took people through, and they were called grey nurse tours. We were looking for the grey nurse. We did some investigation there. So it was an interesting year. It really was, I will say. But it was mainly looking for the grey nurse phenomena, because obviously there's a lot of sensitivity to people being in hospitals. So yes, we have. 14 years ago, dark figures. So lots of wonderful stories coming through here and sharing. Thank you for sharing all these stories. Priscilla, I lived in a haunted house 14 years ago. Saw a dark figure near the bedrooms. Toilet seats up and the lights on. Happened numerous times. That's interesting.
Yeah, sorry, Stephen, it's not that one. It's the National Railway Museum in Port Adelaide. It's a massive. Isn't it the biggest railway museum in Southern Hemisphere, isn't it?
Southern Hemisphere, yeah. 3 massive sheds. And growing all the time as well. Oh, Tom's hijacked our stream here. Belinda, Belinda said her mum passed in the right. I mean, obviously, loved ones. This was my argument when people said, "Oh, you're going in there. My loved one died there," but your loved one isn't going to be there, because your loved one is probably going to have passed and gone home or gone to their loved one. I wouldn't stay in a hospital. So, there's a lot of history with that hospital going back over time. And, it's just... We did get...
We were looking actually for the grey nurse.
Yeah. I mean, we did get some personal stuff there as well. Are we allowed to say anything, Anne?
Yeah.
About any of the stories you've heard?
Yep. Absolutely. Right. I was just having a look, actually. It closed on the 4th of September, 2017.
And the reason Anne knows this?
I used to work in the ED.
And had some intimate knowledge of the former Royal Adelaide Hospital, which meant she was invaluable to us when we started setting up the tours for history and everything else. But you heard the stories as well, didn't you, Anne, while you were working there?
I did.
Did anybody see a full body apparition while you were there that you heard of, or talking of full body stuff?
We had, I don't even know where the discussion came about, but I was talking to a staff member one day. I think they might have been relieving downstairs with us in ED, because we were always busy and always short-staffed. We'd have staff relieving from other wards. And she had described a lady coming up to her. She was on her way down after hours out of the hospital. She finished a shift, but the main doors at the front of the hospital were closed. So the only way to exit the building was to leave via the ED, which is no fun when you're waiting for the drug count to be done, or you can see all the other staff from the other wards leaving, and all you want to do is go home. And she was saying that she pressed the button on the lift, and she said this lady walked around the corner and said to her, "I need to get to the emergency department. I need to find my family." The staff member turned away from seeing if the lift was coming, talked to her to direct her the way to ED, and the lady was gone. And she said that how the hallway was set up and where the lift was, if this woman had just turned around and headed off in another direction away from her, she would have seen her walking away. There was nowhere for this woman to walk around a corner or into a room or anything. And she said this woman completely disappeared. She didn't know where she went. And she said after the woman left, she said she just felt icy cold and she just got a full body shiver. She didn't saw the woman again. She left, exited and went home at the end of her shift, but she couldn't never figure it out. She said that this woman was there. She spoke to her, went to answer her, and she was gone. But the rest of the times, the reports that I'd heard mostly were of things being done by unseen hands in cubicles, patients reporting someone already assisting them when the staff on site hadn't even been into that patient's room yet because it was so busy. That sort of report was what was coming most frequently.
Yeah. It's interesting. I gather she didn't feel when she saw that full-bodied apparition that she obviously looked like you and me and solid and detailed, like
and
a
that's
real.
what she said. Yeah, she said I went to answer her just as I would answer anybody, and she said, and she just wasn't there. She said, and I couldn't figure out where she went.
Yeah.
The same as us at Z-Board.
Yeah.
We had no idea it wasn't a regular person because it looked three-dimensional.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd had a staff member I used to work with in the ED. He had reported seeing a figure of a person sitting on the end of one of the resus beds with a patient. He walked past the cubicle door and had looked in and just assumed that it was a family member that had visited to see the patient probably for the last time.
Yeah.
And he just carried on walking past the door and didn't think anything of it until he went back in and the patient was in the bed on their own. And he actually said to the patient, "Oh, is your family still here? Or have they gone to get something to eat?" And the patient said, "No one's visited me yet. No one's been in here except staff."
Oh wow.
So that puzzled the staff member a bit for quite a while.
We could come back and do a ghost, shouldn't we? We should.
Yeah, I think so.
And maybe come back and do hospital ghosts.
Oh gosh, yeah, that would be interesting because that would be cool. Michelle, sorry, just to interrupt. Michelle wanted to know: have you done any more research on the Austral?
We just turn off. So last question. Michelle said, "What was Michelle's question?"
Have you done any more research on the Austral?
No, Michelle,
Austral
we haven't, because at the end of the day we can't do anything. We can't go there. We can't. Plus, the Austral kind of didn't say they want to ghost up there. Once everything gets back to normal, I would like to do that. At the moment, the research I'm doing is for stuff I'm getting done now, and that's taking up all my time. And then when everything lifts and we can start looking at other stuff, that's when I'll start researching other places. So kind of prioritizing my research. My days are taken up editing videos, streaming, and annoying you lot in general. My presence.
You do it so well. I love you for it.
Yeah, Trina, we should do hospital ghosts, zoo ghosts, and school ghosts. Yeah, well, that's some topics.
My youngest went to a haunted school.
Yeah, we'll hold that thought.
Oh no, my eldest, sorry, not my youngest. I get mixed up. One of the tenants that live at home. Yeah.
Hold the thought. We'll do it another week because it is my 5-minute ghost story has now been an hour.
Funny that.
This is only going to be 30 minutes. No, Steve, I have heard about it though. So about the town.
If you had Nick on, it would have been 5 minutes because he didn't see it. He was standing right behind us, looking into the torchlight, and he didn't see anything.
That is so typical, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we are going to sign off. Just a few things that are coming up. We have a public live investigation on Thursday night. I've got to put the advert up for it, so it'll be an hour for the public stuff, as always, and an hour for our subscribers. So subscribers below, if you want to subscribe, it's only $5 a month. And you get to go on a private page, have so much fun. We are having so much fun over there. Hopefully all my Patreons that are on, like Nell, Abby and all this lot, Jenny, they'll tell you that it's worth it, won't you guys? You're still there, so you must be. But they get a lot of new content, a lot of different content, a lot more investigation for you guys. If the weather is good for you Patreon people, we may go to a completely different place for you. So for you subscribers, tomorrow we may be investigating somewhere new. All right, so the rest of you,
somewhere a bit scary.
The rest of you will get a video eventually, but a live stream investigation will be for subscribers tomorrow. So if the weather is good enough for it. If not, it'll be postponed for another time. So, but we'll let you know. And this is why you should subscribe, guys, because you get all this extra stuff. Trina says she promises. Yes, Trina, don't go calling them trolls and telling them to get out, go back under the bridge when we get new people and we're trying to welcome them. All right. Okay. Trina put a comment on the wrong post. We were just welcoming new people and
it was brilliant.
All these people are really friendly and make yourself at home. And then Trina comes in, trolls. They should just go back, just get out and go back. No way to treat our new members. So it's like, oops, is that where that post went?
That was the funniest thing ever. It was brilliant.
We were just killing ourselves laughing. So yeah, Miri, it should be, I can't remember when the full moon is. It's coming up for us, so it'll be nice and light. We need light tomorrow. So there you go. All right. And what else have we got coming up? There is a charity event. I'm just going to fill you in on the news, Guy. Why I'm talking to one person. And just on the news. What else have we got coming up, Kag? Saturday.
Saturday
morning, we'll have GhostCast properly. So with Craig, me, and Kag, we'll have a guest on there, and we'll be talking to that guest and interviewing. We'll put a thing up for that. But Saturday afternoon, I think it's all day, but you really want to be watching about 4:30 in the afternoon, because I do believe Kag and me may be on somebody else's live stream. So Paranormal Encounters, which is another YouTuber like Paranormal Quest. Connor and India are doing a big 24-hour charity for mental health charities, and they're going to live stream for 24 hours. God bless them. That's going to be a job and a half. They've got a whole load of speakers lined up each hour. We're on about 4 o'clock. I think we're the ones to try poke them with pointy sticks at that hour, because they'll have been up nearly 24 hours at that point. So definitely go and look up Paranormal Encounters. The link is on Haunted Horizons page. They've got some amazing speakers on there for the whole day. There's just going to be a whole row. We've got Beth Darlington from Access Paranormal. You got Amy from Amy's Crypt. You got the Paranormal Quest guys on there. You got Kagami. How that happened, I don't know. And they've only given us an hour.
I know, and they asked for us as well. I was just like, okay, this is a bit strange.
They actually requested that we go. It's like, wow.
They don't know what they're in for.
Yeah.
I know.
They saw the Paranormal Quest one that we took over for 6 hours.
6.5 hours.
We were supposed to be on for about 15 minutes. We're there for about 6.5 hours, weren't we? So there you go. Definitely watch that. And if there's any other news, I will throw it up for you. So with that,
can I just do one more thing?
Yeah.
Sorry, before you go, I just want to say, if we had time tonight, we were going to read a poem. Now, Haunted Horizons seems to have their own poet. If everybody knows Shane Potter. All right. Now Shane's brilliant at poetry. We don't have time to read it tonight, but if you want to read about his experience of seeing a full-bodied apparition, go on to the Facebook page called The Deep End. It's called Pots, Poems and Art.
Yeah.
And it's called The Swagman.
Yeah.
And that is a poem, and also he does his own artwork, and it's a poem about his...
We might put that up on Haunted Horizon, because it's a ghost story, but in poetry.
Yeah, we could do that. Post up
we'll share it.
Pretty cool.
We'll share it. Yeah.
Very talented guy.
Maybe you can put it... He is. Maybe you can put it up the tag. So...
Yeah, I can do
all right, with that...
Dark Shadow.
India was on the Paranormal Quest.
What? It's too late now. We're finished. I asked for a drink. I don't know how long ago.
Delayed reaction.
All right,
At least it's not got the chicken under his arm. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Don't forget, if you can help, subscribe. You won't regret it. Lots of fun on there. $5 a month. That's all.
Mother's Day presents.
We're just going from one to another. Mother's Day coming up. What better than to get them a ghost tour voucher? Don't worry, it may have a year on it. It'll go on forever, that voucher, so don't worry about the time limit. Or why don't you get a subscription if they want entertaining now to extra live feed investigations on, I can't get lower. Actually, it's going to have to be Damo and Anne that point to it.
Demo and
There
Anne,
you
thank
go.
you.
And why not have a subscription to an absolutely amazing page and community for their Mother's Day? Yay! See, full of good ideas. Or you can buy a book. I can't get my finger in the right place. Up here, Ghosts of the Past by Alison, some investigator that did the jail for 10 years. I don't know who it is. Yeah. So there you go. All right, we're going to go. We definitely are going to go now. Have a lovely evening. Enjoy. Thank you for watching and spending some time with us. We love doing it for you, so hopefully you love listening. We are out of here. Enjoy. Good night.
Bye.